Hi, and welcome to Saturday Night Spiritual right here at foundersmcc.org on our Facebook page, which is Founders MCC, and on our YouTube channel. I am the Reverend Sheena Metal, and every month, the second week of every month, I'm the interfaith pastor, and I bring you this interfaith service. We're going to be talking a little more about what interfaith is throughout this broadcast, where you are, a little bit about Founders MCC, and then a little bit about what this weekend means to me and what it can mean to us all. So, like I said, I'm Reverend Sheena. I'm the interfaith pastor here. I'm a staff pastor here at Founders. This is the Founders Church of the Metropolitan Community Church denomination. We have hundreds of outreaches and churches all over the world in dozens and dozens and dozens of countries. It all started right in the heart of Hollywood with a handful of people in our founder, Reverend Troy Perry's living room. This is how things can grow. You know, right now I think we are looking at the losses from a pandemic. We are looking at the losses from a war in the Ukraine. And we're wondering, can I make a difference? Can anything happen because of something that I do? There's so many people in the world. Do I make a difference, and why should I do something? Well, we are a giant machine comprised of a lot of tiny little cogs. And you are each one of those cogs. I am one of those cogs. If all of the cogs are not properly placed and properly working, the machine doesn't run. So yes, you are as important as anyone else. You are as important as the President of the United States. You're as important as Vladimir Putin. You're as important as any of Christ's disciples. You are just a magical, amazing cog in this gigantic machine that is the universe. And the smaller machine that is the earth, right here in our embodied state as living and breathing organisms. I'm so honored to be a part of a church that is what my mama used to call a y'all come church. A church that is progressively Christian in design. I believe it's very much what my mother would have called a Teachings of Christ Christian church. My mom called herself a Teachings of Christ Christian because she was more about the word of Jesus than she was about the institutions people had created after his death. I think that MCC is a lot like that. It's a place where everybody's welcome. It's a place where you could be Orthodox Jewish, come to a service at Founders and get something lovely to take home with you that in no way negated any of your beliefs. I came to Founders and I created this service almost 3 years ago with our staff, with our senior pastor, Pastor Keith Mazingo. He brought me on staff, and we designed this service to be just that, to be a place where anyone who believes in anything or anyone who believes in nothing at all is still welcome and can take something from this. So let's talk a little bit about what interfaith is. Some people have a hard time understanding what it is, why it's here, why anybody would be that. And most importantly, I think people want to know, am I still allowed to be what I am, even though I'm in an interfaith surrounding? And it kind of reminds me of, I'm a talk radio host, 27 years here in Los Angeles. And when gay marriage was becoming a thing, when it was becoming up to the Supreme Court, getting serious, almost a thing, and states were making it legal left and right, I had, a lot of straight people ask me in a very serious voice, if gay people can get married, does that mean that straight people can still get married? To which I would try really hard to be nice and not laugh, as if one group getting a human right would take a right from someone else. And I mention that because I believe that that's how many people think about interfaith. Many people believe that if you become an interfaith pastor, if you attend an interfaith service, if you decide as a person to label yourself with the label interfaith, then somehow you have to give up what you were. You can no longer be a Christian. You can no longer be Jewish. You can no longer be a Buddhist. Nothing could be farther from the truth. I think embracing interfaith spirituality actually makes you a better whatever it is that you are. I think seeing all the other religions and spiritual bents of the earth and getting to know people who are all of those things makes you more firm in your belief that you believe in what you do. Oftentimes makes you more proud to be who you are, because you see other people of other spiritual bents and ideologies and cosmologies that are also extremely proud of who they are, and it makes you more proud of you. I also think it makes you want to represent who you are in the giant spiritual salad bar that is interfaith spirituality, right? I mean, if you go to a restaurant that just serves chili and all you have is the chili, well, you know you like the chili, but it's really all they serve. And then you have to ask yourself, do I like the chili? Or do I just get the chili because I like this place and the chili is all they serve? But if you go to a place where they have 100 salad bar items and soups and ice cream and chicken wings and meatballs, yes, I am describing similar to the best of my recollection before COVID. I sort of almost remember what Sizzler looked like. It's a distant memory. And you still get the chili. Well, now you know that you just dig chili because you had all these options and you still chose the chili. I think a lot of times that folks that grow up in a faith, and I really didn't. My mom was sort of half a Teachings of Christ Christian and half a closet metaphysician. So we went to church very sporadically, but we didn't ever really belong to a church, so to speak. But I think for folks that really did belong to a church, grew up in a church, and then realized for whatever reason that their core spiritual, humane, sociopolitical values did not align with the church. And then they leave the church to find where they belong, oftentimes here at MCC, right? But sometimes I think they feel like they've left something behind. I can't be that anymore. I'm not welcome. I used to love that, but it's not for me anymore. The beautiful thing about interfaith is no one's going to condemn you for who you are or what you do, because all of us are so different. Another beautiful thing about interfaith is no one is going to condemn you for where you've come from. And the third most beautiful thing about interfaith is if you want to go back there and still consider yourself to be that thing, but also embrace that interfaith spirituality is a wondrous, beautiful thing that exists all over the world, and that you're just, like I said earlier, a tiny cog in the giant spiritual puzzle that is the everything. It's perfectly okay. You could come to this service every month and then every Sunday still go to church as a Christian, a Catholic person, somebody in the MCC denomination, an evangelical fundamentalist Christian if you so desired. Saturdays you could go to synagogue. You could be Muslim and go to the mosque. You could do anything you want, but still be somebody who weighs in for interfaith spirituality. It's a little bit like the United Nations, right? Or NATO. If a country belongs to the United Nations, they're not any less that country. We're not any less Americans because we belong to the United Nations. We are just acknowledging that we are one country in this whole beautiful array of countries. And in some ways we're very the same, and in some ways we're very different, but what we have in common is we are united to make the world a better place. And that is what interfaith spirituality is. What makes us interfaith is that we are acknowledging that all these different spiritual ideologies and cosmologies exist in the world. And we are saying, you know what? That's awesome. I love that. I am firmly a Buddhist. I am firmly Hindu. I am firmly a Christian. I am firmly a New Age person. But I understand that my flag flies along all the flags of the world, and we're all united in this beautiful thing that is working together to make the world a better place. And nobody is not welcome in interfaith. You can be the most rigid, rule-centric, fundamentalist, religious person of whatever you're fundamentalist about. Fundamentalism is not just for Christians, my friends. But you are still welcome here. And isn't that great? You don't have to give up anything. You just add something. And that, I think, is beautiful, because I think we all need to add more things. We all need to become bigger and bolder and brighter and more expansive in our spiritual thinking, because that ultimately leads to our enlightenment. That leads to our evolution. That leads to the raising of our personal vibration, which then leads to the vibration lifting around us of people we know, communities we're in, then the national vibration, then the global vibration, then the universal vibration, because positivity is contagious. Ascension is contagious. Evolvement is contagious. Enlightenment is contagious. I love that expression, the more you know, right? The more you know about something, the more exposed to something you are, the more apt you are to take something from that and let it soak into you. And then you become more enlightened. I learn every day about religions I don't know much about. I learn every day about spiritual bents I don't know about. I'm like a sponge. I will suck it in. But I don't know about all of it. I don't know everything about everything. I always want to learn. I want to learn from people who love it. My dear friend Bill Funt, who plays music at a lot of the services when we're actually in the sanctuary and we're all together doing our thing and not COVID-y, he was pretty much a social Jewish person, right? He was raised Jewish, but they didn't really go to synagogue, and he didn't really conform much to Judaism. It was just a thing that he was. And then later in life, he was living in a neighborhood where there were a lot of Jewish folks, and he was exposed to some older Jewish folks that some of them were Orthodox and very strict in their beliefs, and he learned a lot about who he was and where he came from. And it made him a more proud and observing Jewish person. And I think that's terrific. I have become more of a Christian from being a part of MCC and being on staff here at Founders. I grew up an hour south of Los Angeles in a very conservative area that in the 1980s was extremely oppressive spiritually and emotionally and socially, culturally. So I felt like, as an artist and a queer person and a free-thinking person, that I had to rebel against that. So I moved to Los Angeles after college. I never said God. I only said the universe or higher power. I talked about Jesus as a metaphysical hippie healer, which I really believe he was, but I didn't really ever talk about Jesus in the biblical sense. And I was very anti-organized religion. And then I grew up and I wasn't 23 anymore. And I started meeting and becoming friendly with many people who were from all different spiritual bents, some that were very strict. And then when I was 27, I became a talk radio host. 1994, 27. When I was 27, I became a talk radio host. And I started interviewing people of all different, people who were in cults, people who were Satanists. I'm not saying that's okay, I'm just saying. People who were radical atheists. And I started realizing that everybody's thing was their thing and it was okay. And I became a lot less restrictive about how I would refer to things or how I felt about other people's beliefs. And then I came to MCC. I got the download from Spirit to become ordained. I was ordained at American Trinity University. And then I became a staff pastor here. And I started coming to services and getting to know Pastor Keith and Reverend Alejandro and Reverend Lucia and Reverend Steve Peters and all the fantastic people here. And then a miracle thing happened. I kind of became a Christian again. Not a fundamentalist Christian, not condemning anybody's beliefs or telling anybody they can't be who they are or not associating with people. I didn't become that kind of Christian, but I became a person who now is happy saying God, is happy talking about Jesus, is happy even in the middle of these interfaith services referencing the Bible. The liberal, progressive, all-loving outreach of interfaith spirituality made me more of a Christian. And I certainly have become more of a Christian through my interfaith beliefs and my teachings and my services and my ministry than I ever was going to Presbyterian church as a kid, where honestly, all I remember was an angry man who always seemed so angry when he talked about God and Jesus, and then going downstairs and these just amazing pastries and coffee cake and punch. So I kind of blame Christianity for being fat, because really all I took from it was I scarfed a lot of goodies, and I couldn't wait to come back next week and scarf more goodies. As a matter of fact, I remember these really interesting sandwich cookies. They were like Oreo adjacent, but they weren't Oreos. They had like a milk chocolate cookie instead of a dark chocolate cookie, and I could not get enough of them. And I don't remember ever having one outside of my very brief Presbyterian experience in Lake Forest, Illinois. So that's just a little bit about interfaith. It's a little bit about where we come from here, where this service comes from, how you're allowed to take everything you love and bring it here. And then hopefully get something from the service, get a message, bring something with you, and just be happy, you know? Be happy about what you believe, and then think of ways that you can start to maybe open yourself up a little to see if there's something else you want to believe in, because that's okay. And it doesn't take away from who you are. Does that make sense? Okay, so here's a couple things I want to say really quick. Anything that you want to find out about this church, you can find out by going to foundersmcc.org. How you can donate to a service. You can donate to this service. You can donate to any service. You can donate to the church in general. I'm not going to tell you to donate to this service, but I get mad props if you do, so it's good to know people are listening and watching. You can learn a lot about me by going to sheenametalspiritual.com. A little bit about my ministry, and that might be fun. It's a fun walk, a little bit about what I do. It's a happy site that's lavender and has a lot of pictures, because that's me. And of course, please find us on social media. I'm Sheena Metal everywhere. We have a SaturdayNightSpiritual.com community page. Please go there if you want. There's a wonderful founders page. We have a wonderful YouTube channel, social media everywhere. Get connected to us. And now Pastor Keith is here, and he's telling you how you can donate if you want to donate, which is very important. I like to say, help us to help you. Your donation is helping us so we can help you. Because the more funds that we have, the more outreach we can do, and the more wonderful things we can do, not just for our parishioners, but for people in the community who need help, because that is truly, right, the message of Christ and part of his ministry. So help us to help you, and help us to help the world. That is a beautiful way to raise the global vibration. So I would be lying if I said this was not a very difficult week for me. It's hard to understand that when I'm here in my hot pink shirt with a big smile on my face. But Friday was the anniversary of my mother's death. And that's always a very difficult time for me. I loved her more than anything in this world. And hers is a loss that I'm not sure I'm ever going to be over. And I want to talk a little about that today, because that's okay. Obviously, pandemic and war, so we're all a little on edge. Both of my best friends are very sick right now. My oldest friend is experiencing intense symptoms of COVID, even though she's testing negative. I'm not sure what that's about, but it's bad. My other best friend had a surgery that went wrong a few weeks ago. She came down with a very bad case of sepsis. She is still undergoing wound care. She's having problems with her kidneys. Her blood pressure is dangerously low. So everything that is a part of my support system is in crisis right now. And I know a lot of us feel that way, right? We're in the middle of what the astrologers call a Pluto return. So a Pluto return is when Pluto is how we wrestle and overcome the negativity and darkness within us, right? The dark thoughts, the monkey brain that tells you you're not enough, the chattering brain of the person in childhood that told you you'd never be anything. Wrestling with walking in the light as opposed to walking in the dark. That is really what our relationship with Pluto is. And this Pluto in return, when something in astrology, when something's in return, it means that it just becomes heightened. The thing that you're supposed to learn becomes incredible. So folks that are what I like to call a half full personality, right? Folks that are always looking on the bright side of life, always look on the bright side of life, are really now appreciating the things in their lives that are beautiful despite the loss and the worry and the anxiety and the crazy that this past 2 years has been. This is the 2-year anniversary of COVID, right? My dear departed mother's death anniversary is National COVID Day, which was yesterday. So it's been 2 years of a real hayride. And for some folks, even more, because some folks came down with COVID before it was officially a thing and had its own day. So we've been dealing with this for at least 2 years. Those that are positive oriented, glass half full, will be thinking about when this is over. What am I going to do with myself? How can I use this downtime? How can I still be productive? How can I help the world? But for folks who are positivity challenged, the folks that I like to call the glass half empty folks, this is a time of, yeah, everything I've lost, I'm never going to get it back. I'm never going to get that 2 years back. Things are never going to be the same. It's never going to be okay. So I'm telling you that because even though there was not a Pluto return 6 years ago, you know, when we were kids, there were those commercials, right, where the person had the angel on one shoulder and the devil on the other, and the angel's saying, like, it's going to be okay, everything's fine. The devil's going to be, it's all going to hell, it's going to be rotten. As I sat 6 years ago yesterday, and during the sunrise watched my mother pass as I held her hand, all of that stuff went through my head. Is it going to be okay? Is it ever going to be okay? Is this really the end of my life? Will I be able to be happy without this? Can I go on without her? How am I going to live through this? How am I going to smile again? How am I going to laugh again? How am I ever going to feel like I have a life that is beautiful and quality again? How am I going to do that? And then a really magic thing happened. My mother and I were very spiritually tied. I mean, we were like this. So much so that after I got over my initial grief and these weird days that pang at me, right? Her birthday, her death anniversary, Mother's Day. The other 362, I'm pretty groovy. Because our connection was so spiritual that her being in spirit isn't a whole lot different than her being here for me. Because even when she was here, our connection was so ethereal. But as she was passing, I felt this unlacing feeling. And all I can liken it to is when you unlace an ice skate from both sides, which is an interesting analogy because my mom was a figure skating junkie. And I didn't know what it was at first and I panicked. It was right in my solar plexus chakra, right here. And then I thought, oh my God, she's letting me go. And she did. She let me go. She let me go with the message that Spirit reconfirmed that this was the part of your life when you were with her. Now the next part of your life is going to be when you take all the beautiful things that she has taught you and heal people with them. And that is always the lesson of grief and of loss. Whether the loss is death, whether the loss is someone leaves your life, whether the loss is of something in your health or a job or a home or a pet. We are meant to learn from that thing, and we are meant to rise. We are meant to take it in, digest it, sort through it with our mind, right? With our heart. My heart's here, but it looks like here for you. With our soul, which I always like to put right here in your third eye chakra. It's not really where it is, but that is how we connect to spirit. So it's a good thing otherwise I'm like doing this and it gets real crazy. And really to our gut, which is such an important part of how we process spiritual things. We realize that in the letting go, we are ascending. It's like you're in a hot air balloon and it's weighed down by sandbags. In the throwing of the bags off of the carriage of the hot air balloon, the balloon begins to ascend, right? When a plane is having trouble flying, the first thing they do is they start throwing off all the baggage, right? And I'm not saying the death of someone you loved is baggage, or the death of my mother was baggage. But we do hold on to things and we carry things and we worry a lot that we can't get through things. I love that expression that the Christians have, right? God doesn't give you more than you can handle. And it's true, but we sometimes hang on to more than we can handle by refusing to let go of the things that no longer serve us. Every time anything in the world happens to you, anything in your life happens to you, it is done to get you more on your path. It's done for your better good. Even if it hurts like hell and there seems to be no reason for it, there is a reason for it. You go strong, you grow stronger. I like to think of our incarnations here on earth as a kind of soul school, right? Sometimes when you're in school, real school, actual school, but soul school is the same, the teacher will ask you to do an assignment or ask you to do, put a question on a quiz, and you're like, what? This doesn't apply to anything. Why is this here? This is the most ridiculous busy work. Why do I have to do this? But then somewhere in your life, you think, oh, that's why I needed that. I'm using that now. That's why I needed that. It happens to me all the time. Happens to me in my spiritual work, in my radio work, in my entertainment life, in my ministry. Oh, there's that thing I laughed at. That's what I need that thing for. So not only does God not give you more than you can handle, God actually gives you the things that you need, even though sometimes they seem like they can't be handled. This is so important to know because it makes us feel less burdened, right? It makes us feel like less things are being done to us. One of the messages I get with my spiritual clients, I'm a spiritual counselor, and one of the things I get from my clients all the time is from Spirit to give to them is stop thinking of yourself as a person that things happen to and start thinking of yourself as a person that things happen for. Right? How about that? Stop thinking of yourself as someone that Spirit is punishing you, God's mad, why did this happen to me? My enemy put a curse on me. Think of it as a blessing. Things are happening for you. They're not happening to you. And the ultimate lesson of that for me was when my mom passed. What in the world is this for? How could this have happened? We used to laugh that she was going to live to be to 100 because so many of her, my grandmother died very young of a ruptured appendix, interesting enough, of sepsis. But some of her brothers and sisters lived to be like 102 years old. And my mom and I had this fantastic joke that when she got to be, because you know, people get real old, they get tiny, that I was just going to throw her in a backpack and carry her around. And she was like, yeah, and I'm going to give orders the whole time. So when she passed at 82, it just seemed like shocking to me. And I know for a lot of folks who lost their parents very early, that seems like a good long life. But it seems so shocking that she would go so soon. And I couldn't figure out what the lesson was. Why would this happen to me? And then I realized, with a little help from Spirit and a little help from her after she passed, that she and I were so close, and me making sure that she was always okay was, our relationship was so very all-encompassing. That maybe I didn't have the freedom to, had not given myself the freedom, it had nothing to do with her, to break free and do my own thing. And also she was such a hugely amazing teacher, therapist, psychic medium, light worker, healer, hypnotherapist. I always kind of felt like Junior, you know, like, well, I'm okay at things, but Mom, she's the thing. But when I passed, the message from her was, guess what, kid? You're the thing. And now is your time. And I changed my life. I like to say I started wearing my underwear on the outside, like that tour when Madonna did that. This spiritual part of me was always who I was on the inside, but I started showing it to people. And I took all the sadness that I felt around her grief, and I founded a nonprofit in her name, raisingthevibration.org, with her teachings about peace and love and kindness and unity and vibration. And I became a minister at Spirit's behest and didn't know what I was going to do with that. And then look at where I am, helping people all the time and here every second Saturday of the month for you all. I opened my spiritual practice. I just started saying yes to everything. And things that I wasn't getting messages about, I pushed to the back. And I stopped worrying about so many of the things that we get held up in, right? The human things, not our soul things, the human things. Why doesn't she like me? Why doesn't he love me? Why has my aunt never been nice to me? Why can't, when I was a kid, it was, why can't I do a cartwheel? I was a smart kid. I got good grades. I was good at so many things. I could sing and dance and act, but I always freaked out in PE because I couldn't do the cartwheel. And I would actually say, when people would say, well, what are some of your challenges? I'd say, I can't do a cartwheel. I mean, when you look back at that now, who cares about a cartwheel? But when we are young and people tell us that everything of the earth is all that matters, we worry about that. Do I have enough money? Is my nose too big? Do I have a tooth out of place? Should I get rid of my gray? And other people who are worried about those things will come to you and say, oh my God, you gotta get something. When my mom died, and I was allowed to throw the sandbags out of the hot air balloon basket, and I was allowed to throw the things that I didn't need out of the plane, that was when I stopped worrying about all that stuff. That was when I started focusing on what was important. Who did I love? Who were the people in my life that had my back? How much was I loving my animals? How much was I helping other people? Who needed my help? And all that other stuff that the monkey brain chatters at us, right? I stopped worrying about it. And I most importantly stopped listening to me and started listening to God, because that is the most important thing. I tease my clients all the time that, here is this universal, unfathomable, intelligent, light and love packed, endless and ageless force that just wants to hold our hand and help us walk down our spiritual path. And we will stop with that bastion of benevolence looking us right in the eye and say, well, I've been on the earth for 54 years and I pretty much know everything. And I really need your help, God, because I got this. I'm a person. This is how we get ourselves into trouble, right? This is how we get ourselves into trouble. We push God away. Talk to the hand, Lord. We push God away because we know best. Because we're people. And somewhere, somebody told us that we were the top of the food chain, at which point every time a human says that, an elephant and a dolphin snicker. My mama used to say human beings were just smart enough to be dangerous. And are we dangerous to others? Sometimes people are dangerous to others, but oftentimes we are dangerous to ourselves because we are allowing ourselves to be a person that things happen to. Even though God is jumping up and down saying, no. You're a person that things happen for. when my mother died, my life opened up expansively. And my mom was not a person that ever held me back, or she wasn't like a helicopter mom, and she wasn't always telling me what to do, and she didn't yell at me. And like, I think she spanked me once when I was like 7 and it mortified her and she cried for a week and never did it again. She was not a person that held me down. But somehow I held myself back and lived under the umbrella of her massiveness. And then I realized that it was my time. And that's the thing, all the things that you want in life that you think are not happening for you. I haven't met the right person. I haven't found the right place to live. I'm not really doing what I want to do with my life. I'm not getting along with my family like I wish I was. Those are all things that Spirit wants to give to you. But you're not accepting them. Because for some reason or another, they're not coming to you as you think they should. They're not being delivered as you think they should. They don't look the way you think they should look. And you're not accepting them. You know, when we're little, we have all these ideas, right? When I was 23, I bought my house and it was new. So I could put anything I wanted in it. And I love that. So now it needs a remodel. And so does my mama's house. And when I was younger, everything had to be a certain way. I had to have this piece of furniture, and I have to measure out every room and write a floor plan of where everything's going to go. Now I just want to live in a place with a lot of windows and a beautiful energy that is not haunted and makes me feel happy. If the floors aren't exactly what I would pick, if the paint is not exactly what I would do, if the shower doesn't look like my dream shower, which by the way is a pink marble shower with pink mosaic angelfish around the top, that is my dream shower, thank you very much. You can always get that stuff done later, or not. The most important thing is to be happy. So you meet a great person, right? And maybe he doesn't look the way you think he should, or he doesn't make as much money as you wish he did. But is he wonderful? Does he make your heart sing? Does he make you happy in the pit of your stomach? That's what matters. That's all that matters. And those are the messages that God is really trying to give you. Because when you go home, right, where Spirit lives, nobody cares how anybody looks. And there's no such thing as money. And there's not a nose job or a boob job, or who cares if you have gray hair. There's nothing like that. You are just a mass of energy, and you are judged on the quality of your soul. Not judged like Old Testament justice, but, you know, what you carry with you is your energy signature, and that's how people see you. That's how other beings see you and make assessments as to whether or not they want to be part of your soul pod. Nobody's like, wow, great girl, but I hate her pants in heaven. These are things that we put on ourselves to restrict ourselves. These are things that stop us from rising. These are things that make us feel inadequate and not enough and unloved and not worthy. These are things that get us into that mentality of, why is God doing things to me? And not, why is God doing things for me? I'll give you an example, and I don't think I've ever talked about this before. I've been a large girl since I was 5. I don't have a problem with saying the F word, fat, but if you have a problem with it, forgive me. But I'm fat. And I've been various stages of fat in my life. And now I'm not as fat as I've been, but I'm still fatter than probably I should be. And I'm working on it. And it's been hard for me in the sense that when I was young, I wasn't the first person asked to the dance. And probably the person who asked me wished they had asked somebody else that wouldn't say yes. And I have dealt with that mentality, that prom mentality, my entire life into my 50s with people that I have dated or almost dated or been in relationships with. You're the perfect girl, but I used to work on the Howard Stern station with a girl that was a penthouse pet, former penthouse pet. It's probably the first time that's ever been said at an MCC service, but welcome to my rock and roll life. And we had a huge male listenership, obviously. And so many times men would call and say, I wish I could take everything about Sheena and put it in your body. And when I was in my 30s, early 30s, late 20s, that was like, but now that I realize that everything spirit does, it does for you. I think that's the biggest compliment that everybody could have given me. They wanted to take everything about me and put it in a different shell. And I, because I was not a woman that was everything was given to me, I built more character. I became a nicer person. I became a more empathetic person. I became a more gentle person. My mama used to say, everything that happened to me that I felt was negative at the time made me stronger, but it also made me softer. And that's the important part. Are you getting the empathy from it? Are you becoming more tender because of it? I am a better person for my mother passing because that grief and that loss and that pain made me reach out to people and want to heal them every day. So nobody had to feel that. And that applies to all of our lives, no matter what you do, right? You become softer, but you also become stronger, but you also become softer. And that kind of empathy and that kind of understanding and that kind of all-knowingness where you can feel everybody's feelings, and when something happens to someone, you can feel it. And you just want to help. That's the biggest gift that God can give you. And if it takes a loss of some kind to get there, then that's the most beautiful thing ever. I have a friend who was a model and a fitness person. And one day she was in a car accident coming back from, I believe, her friend's bachelorette party or rehearsal dinner for her wedding. Anyway, everyone in the car died. She got thrown out the windshield and woke up in the hospital and could feel nothing below her head. And she still is a quadriplegic. And she always says that when she opened her eyes and she couldn't move, the first thing that she thought was, this must have happened for a reason. This must have been given to me because God had something for me and I needed to be in this body for it. This is the thing I'm talking about. And I'm not saying it's not okay to cry, it's not okay to grieve. I will tell you the truth, full disclosure, I cried most of yesterday. It's okay to be overwhelmed by emotion. It's okay to have a minute where you think, this sucks and why did this happen? Why is there a war right now? What is that necessary for? Why did 1 million people and something die from COVID? Why did that happen? It's okay to ask the whys, but it's not okay to live on them, my friends. Because as you're asking the why did people die, you have to also ask, what can I do? How has this changed me? And how will I become a more participative cog in the wheel of the everything for having had this experience? And that is what I hope you take with you today. Maybe say a little Irish prayer for my mom in heaven, a little sláinte for her. Little maybe road rise to meet you. And maybe call somebody that you love and tell them how much you love them. Be thankful for the things you still have, not resentful of the things you no longer have. Does that make sense? I'm looking for a poem that I want to read you. I gave it as a plaque to my best friend who is very sick right now with sepsis. Because I love her and she's my family, and it was her birthday. Her birthday's the day before my mother's death anniversary. Because I want to do this for her. And I want you to take this with you. But first, for you all, take from today how important you are. Take from today that you are so special that Spirit has given you these challenges and these obstacles to overcome because they believe in you. They know you got this. And they know you're going to be so evolved and so enlightened on the other side of it. And you're going to be stronger and softer and kinder and more empathetic and more knowledgeable and more enlightened for having gone through this trouble. Learning that, even just taking a little bit of it away from today, that is my gift to you. That is Spirit's gift to you. And you are loved by Spirit every day, and all of us here at Founders MCC, and you are loved by me. I'm the Reverend Sheena. This is Saturday Night Spiritual. We'll be back the second Saturday in April, which I think is like maybe Eastery. I'm not sure where Easter is. I haven't looked yet. It's in the Easter zone. It'll be Easter-ish. Know that you are always taken care of and that you are loved. You can find me at sheenametalspiritual.com, my nonprofit, raisingthevibration.org, if you want to learn about more ways to implement peace, love, kindness, and unity into the world and spread that word to others so we can have more of that, right? When you get the enlightenment, when you get the ascension, when you get the evolvement, send the elevator down and bring up 100 people and inspire them to do the same. Find us on YouTube. We have a great page there. We have a great Facebook page. All the instructions for how to donate are here in the chat. Please check those out. It's very easy, and you can go to the foundersmcc.org and figure it out. The community page for this service, SaturdayNightSpiritual.com. I'm on social media everywhere doing my thing, just at Sheena Metal. Thank you to Founders MCC for having me every month. I love you all, and I thank you for being my family. And in honor of St. Patrick's Day and my beautiful best friend, Kelly Rivers, I give you this Irish toast. There are good ships, and there are wood ships. There are ships that sail the seas. But the best ships are friendships. And may that always be. I love you all. I thank you for being here with me, and I'll see you next month. Thank you, Pastor Keith. Thank you, Reverend Alejandro. Thank you, Reverend Karina. I see you all in here, and I appreciate you. And I'll see you next time. Namaste. Blessed be. God bless you. And I love you. This is Saturday Night Spiritual. I'll see you next time.